5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
This is About Space, America's return to space, with news and information on our U.S. space program.
From our About Space Today World Headquarters, I'm John Gomez. China is launching their version of Starlink, a slingshot into space, and 5 launches we're looking forward to in 2024. These stories and more next, as America and the world are listening to About Space Today.
D&D Cruise and Tours is the official agent for About Space, and we invite you to come fly away to all-inclusive resort island destinations, or a cruise vacation from Port Canaveral, and even visit the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex, or just come and see the parks. Call for a discount cruise or an island getaway or the Florida beaches. Call today. The call is free, and so are our services. Call 877-747-8631. That's 877-747-8631. We are Florida's group travel specialists.
Welcome back. You're probably familiar with Starlink, SpaceX's satellite internet company that launched the first of their planned 12,000 satellites in 2019. And as you've heard previously on About Space Today, Amazon launched the first of their planned 3,200 Project Kuiper satellites in 2023. Now it seems that China is ready to enter the satellite internet business, as the first satellite for their second planned low Earth orbit communications mega constellation, G60 Starlink, had rolled off the production line in Shanghai just after Christmas. China is already working on Guowang, or SatNet, a group of 13,000 satellites that are part of the China Satellite Network Group. The country plans to launch at least 108 G60 Starlink satellites in 2024, leading to an eventual total of about 12,000, rivaling SpaceX's numbers. However, it's not just about numbers. There's a geopolitical component to this.
What has raised eyebrows in certain quarters, particularly in China, is just Starlink's rapid expansion, potential geopolitical implications of such a network. The Liberation Army, also PLA, has expressed concerns about the possibility of SpaceX's Starlink being for military surveillance and intelligence purposes by the United States. This stems from the PLA's view that Starlink's high bandwidth capabilities could be leveraged to Washington's advantage. For instance, when Starlink was offered to Ukraine during its conflict with Russia, the PLA's newspaper, Liberation Army Daily, criticized it as aiding U.S. hegemony, including enabling soldiers to communicate, identify targets, and share information. China viewed this as a potential threat to its ally, Russia.
But China's concerns only begin there. Their most significant concern is Taiwan.
One of the most significant apprehensions revolves around Taiwan, a self-governing island that China claims as its own. If Taiwan were to gain access to Starlink, it could significantly complicate any potential Chinese invasion by enhancing Taiwan's communication and surveillance capabilities.
Stay tuned to About Space Today for more updates throughout the year as China challenges SpaceX's satellite dominance, and we continue to monitor the geopolitical effects of their 2 very large, very expansive satellite internet projects. Sure, you could load up a rocket with 400,000 pounds of propellant like SpaceX does, or you could use a new type of launcher that will essentially slingshot that rocket into space. Now I know what you're thinking. Someone wants to slingshot a rocket to space? Well, yeah. And the founder and CEO of Spinlaunch, Jonathan Yanni, will tell you how.
This is essentially a sling launch system, which we were using to hunt with 50,000 years ago. It's simply using modern materials and encased in a large vacuum chamber. So what you have is an arm that slowly rotates around and around, driven by an electric motor. And once the tip velocity is sufficient for it to be able to carry a spacecraft into space, we simply let go. And it travels outside of the vacuum chamber through the atmosphere in about 30 seconds into space.
Not only does the system allow for multiple uses of the launch vehicles, it's good for the planet too.
it represents really the electrification of the space transportation industry. We're seeing so many of these transportation industries becoming electrified right now, yet rockets in their inherent nature rely upon simply pushing massive amounts of combusted products out the back of the rocket. It's really the only way historically to get to space. So you have to employ a system like Spinlaunch if you want to reduce the carbon footprint of space access, which is incredibly important.
While the technology is still several years away from being viable, Spinlaunch is test launching different projectiles and hopes to be putting vehicles into orbit by the end of the decade. We'll keep you up to date on Spinlaunch here at About Space Today. 2024 will see no shortage of launches, but we think these 5 will be the most important. And keep in mind, these dates are tentative. At number 5 is ULA's Vulcan Centaur launch, scheduled for January of 2024. Its payload is the Peregrine lander, which is bound for the moon. At number 4, Starship Test Flight number 3 in early 2024. I'm not sure there's anything else to say about that. At number 3 is the Polaris Dawn mission in April of 2024. It's a private space mission featuring the very first commercial spacewalk. Coming in at number 2, NASA's Europa Clipper, launching in October of 2024, with over 2 million names being engraved on the spacecraft, including the name of this reporter. Finally, at number 1, and our most anticipated launch of the year, is the Artemis II launch slated for November. Its manned mission is taking us around the moon and back again, paving the way for Artemis III's historic moon landing in 2025. About Space Today will keep you updated throughout 2024 on these launches and others like Blue Origin's New Glenn spacecraft, Boeing's next Starliner launch, Ariane 6, and the Sierra Space Dream Chaser. Make sure you check out our Facebook page, aboutspace.today, for launches and landings, and invite your family and friends to listen weekly. Be sure to join Space Coast News editor Dawn Meyer every Friday for America in Space. To all of our listeners around the world and here in the U.S., thanks for joining me. I'm John Gomez, and this has been About Space Today.